of course, offer the possibility of clean, safe drinking water for our Eastern Navajo communities. There's already been a lot of incredible work done to bring drinking water, clean, safe drinking water to our Navajo communities on the eastern side in New Mexico with the San Juan River settlement and the Navajo Gallup Water Supply Project line, as well as the Cutter lateral work. But there still is a lot of work to be done. And there are basins that aren't getting the level of service and access that they need. And so this settlement moves us in that direction towards fulfilling the nation's vision for a global water supply system. And so we're excited to have that opportunity for additional communities in New Mexico. And so thank you everyone for being here this evening and listening, learning more. Please provide your comments to council and also share with your family members what you learned tonight and hopefully tune in for the Nabakia committee session tomorrow, as well as the special session of council on Thursday to learn more about the settlement and remain apprised of the issue. Tonight we'll be kind of providing the general background and a deeper dive probably than what you will hear at the various sessions that lie ahead in this approvals process for the nation. But again, thank you for tuning in, remaining engaged, learning more, and very excited to be talking about the settlement that can bring a meaningful supply of safe, clean drinking water to our New Mexico communities. So, Vice Chair, I'll hand things back to you.
Thank you very much, Madam Attorney General. We would like to go ahead and have Assistant Attorney General Michelle Espino introduce herself, and then also Dr. Cordova.
Thank you, Vice Chair Tooley, and thank you, Attorney General Branch. I'm happy to be here this evening. Michelle Espino Yanishya Tachitni Shla Anashlana Bashichin Sinajani Dashache Anaslana Dashanella. On my father's side, I'm Ogallala and Salish and Kootenai. Natniljin Dat Nasha. I'm originally from the Torreon chapter community. And I am the Assistant Attorney General for the Water Rights Unit at the Department of Justice. And I look forward to giving you this presentation this evening. Thank you.
Yat A She Crystal Tuli Cordova Yanishia, Twitch Eatney Nishle, Katnazane Bashichin, Hashkan Hedzahe Edashache, Tuo Heglini Edashanala, Bestot Kligendeshgish, Dot Watlagai Deshia Ho Navajo Nation Department of Water Resources, Water Management Branch, Banashnish, Principal Hydrologist Nishle. In case you're just tuning in, tonight we are talking about the Rio San Jose Stream System Water Rights Settlement. You may be wondering where the Rio San Jose Stream System is and what basins may be included in this stream system water rights. And it's inclusive of the Rio San Jose as well as the Rio Perco. Just to give you a perspective, the Rio San Jose starts, if you've ever driven on I-40 by Continental Divide, you see a blue sign that says entering the Rio San Jose Stream Basin, and it extends to be able to be seen on a bridge just past Mesita as you're going east to Albuquerque. And the Rio Perco Basin is farther east than that. If you've ever seen that big bridge that is near Route 66 Casino, that's the Rio Perco Basin, and it extends northward. By definition of the settlement, does include the Arroyo Chico Basin for the far eastern side of the Navajo Nation, including communities, Whitehorse Lake, Torreon, Ojo Encino, as well as Counselor. And Tuahajile is also included in this region. Some other chapters that are included in the Rio San Jose include the Rue, Baca Pruitt, Casamaro Lake, Smith Lake, and small portions of Mariano Lake, Crown Point, Rama, as well as Little Water. That's just to give you a little bit of context about the stream system that we're talking about. And Rio San Jose and Rio Perco basins are sub-watersheds to the Rio Grande Basin. So this is Navajo Nation's first opportunity to be able to secure water rights in the Rio Grande Basin. Just wanting to share that for you listeners and those who are streaming online to have an understanding of that. Yeah.
Ja, det kunde en idé egentligen hot anledning genast agenda kidiki ja di I anegi bigi ja di det tårni ajugo ki tro akwa eke jo akun kitin dat del wo kis ani mesita hodli abe hozenie adon den le bel dilasen del doja kwige ja yego ni na hatege ha atin adon det akwa eke na aha hodlo diki ya akwige ya totla adetchen lenige edishin lenige ya ajelto bedet o ya kodon kilta huidne lindo lil adon deta kodo ya ngilbe hozen tro tro ya ina at jo hut ego ya bebedit le do kundi giben kilta huidne leko ad in deta ti hand so she yan leke dat de lie kodi de moye da elas gitlatle diki ya kedati yasli adon deta ya hut ego ya shinkinan shite nossen adon deta shin yet khada tokke shkon killi hodlonigi to ya apol tran hut ego ya ban sa hakke so ya kodon da huit andle in deta le hand so she ya jo inat eti nigo ke ya kodo ke kilisha neli akonde ze dot abenajo talit eko diki ya alpedition neki jon leide ya hand so she a wet the sentence khaladon len linta ako ad in the ya kodi ki trogi chon inklende ko eke ina o kasa aneki jo diki ya alpedition ako adeya ko enden khaba holji selin lenigi kodoki nke wet leni Dr. Cordova ecuador kilchon aselin le ado undeta ya di kodonana nana hanato kitten lenigi ya jokeya hagina sha diki ya banachiko ki ya kodoki kilta huidne lido le ad endeta le ya tide tropa adi diki to hut ego ba na when to leko diki ein leni atzlas nelo ade ge troche da bezke ado und da eben nachgo ki kondi ki be benach kondi ki ke honit en leko ado und dan late netra hat neniki to ajigo ki to kodon kilchi da huit leniki aji hand so shil to hanne ki kodo nikilbe hozen leko Ako hut ego jet anago ge yakodo yankilch hona adolil adon that Assistant Attorney General nkima Michelle Espino she kwadonkil na had net and lead olil.
Thank you, Vice Chair Tooley. Vice Chair Tooley, he is the Vice Chair of our Water Rights Commission, and he has been very, very helpful and with our public education. He goes out with us to the various communities and assists in the education surrounding these water rights settlements. So again, we're really happy to be with you tonight to talk more in detail about the water rights settlements you may be hearing about. As the Attorney General stated, the water rights settlements have been introduced to Council and are currently within the Council process. On Monday, the Resources and Development Committee did pass the Rio San Jose Stream System Water Rights Settlement, along with the Arizona settlement as well. And tomorrow, both settlements will be going to the Nabikiatik Committee for the opportunity for them to consider it and approve it. And then it will go to the full council on Thursday. along with the Arizona settlement that we've also been talking quite a bit about lately. So this map, or for those that are online, they can see that there is a map. So the Navajo Nation lies within 3 states: the state of Utah, the state of Arizona, and the state of New Mexico. But we also are within 2 basins, which is the upper Colorado River Basin and the lower Colorado River Basin. And then in addition to that, the Rio Grande Basin in New Mexico. So the San Juan River Basin that was mentioned earlier, a majority of it is in the upper basin, and then the Rio San Jose stream system that we are going to talk more in detail about tonight is a sub-basin of the Rio Grande Basin, and so is the Rio Puerco Basin. There is another basin in which a Navajo community lies within, and that's the Rio Salado Basin, and that is where the community of Alamo, that's way down by Socorro. That's where that community is located. The water rights settlement, however, that we're going to discuss tonight does not include the Rio Salado, and that is a future basin that we will be addressing in the future. Can we go to the next slide, Nana? So again, the Rio Grande, the Navajo name for it is To'ba'ade. It's a female river, and it's born from one of our sacred mountains. It is one of the sacred rivers that sets the boundaries for Dinétah, our Navajo land, and it is a protector for the Navajo people. Nana? The Rio Grande Basin, it's a binational stream system, meaning that it goes into two countries. The headwaters are in Colorado. It flows down towards New Mexico, then to Texas, and 5 states in Mexico. And it is part of a 335,000 square miles watershed. Nana? So if you're tuning in online, you'll be able to see the 2 subbasins that will be part of our settlement. So in green, you'll see the Rio San Jose Basin, and then in blue is the Rio Puerco Basin. And as Dr. Tully Cordova explained, the Rio San Jose Basin is basically starts on the western side from the Theru area and extends all the way to To'Hajiilee. And it also runs north and south to the point where there's a portion of Rama Navajo community in the Rio San Jose Basin. And then as it goes north, there are several chapters that are from in the Eastern Navajo Agency that are also within the Rio San Jose stream system. And then Rio Puerco, it actually extends south, I believe very close to the Alamo community, and then it runs all the way north and includes chapters, my own chapter, Torreon, Whitehorse Lake, Counselor, Encino, and several others as well. Nana? So the 9 chapter communities that are in the Rio San Jose stream system, also called basin, are Baca Pruitt, Casimiro Lake, Crown Point, Little Water, Mariano Lake, Rama, Smith Lake, Theru, and To'Hajiilee. And then in the Rio Puerco Basin, there are 7 communities, and that's To'Hajiilee, Torreon, Encino, Pueblo Pintado, Whitehorse Lake, Counselor, and Little Water. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back to Vice Chair Tully for interpretation.
Akia the Kwadoki Eya Rio Grande Basin or Giheki Yahade La Eya To Chibike La Ako Dike Eya John Le Besham Haida di Bensa or Giheki Ya Belagana Ketchiko Gaya Headwaters, Colorado, Johut Ego Eyabe Ehozendle, Adego Gisi Eyach Adon that Diki your torture on lay a cutly and later Kondigi is a hata Kahagi Ajo Kaya Hahot Zogi, Diki Eya Ebita Det Akonda de Kaya Hata Son Lenigi Eishla. Adon the lay na Kai Keda hat in the John. Diki Echo Mexico Dabadine. A cotton you seen Tielo Eya Hida Did Leco. Diki Joyen ne Ako Gi Jo Kodobach hot and needy ye tardness at Dino and Tadino Ashla the meal. Hunelt out ya Hunsod ya Bikesh Chin Leco Uncle Behosen Lindole Nana. Adon the Quake Hananal Katen Leniki ya Diki Kundiki Ginasa Aniki ya Chunley Nish Naje. Ko ki kweki ki I si be Elias Lane Leco. Kaya tinko had ekidahoti zogi, joy hut ego a dit one tail or ye ade ekidati leniki joy huneki a yati the twin leniki kodoba nate and leniki a archiko ki a yahut ego a ade gito gihatas lindo hitati linko ki eben nachiko ki a kundi ki togi hut ego a be nate and Adon the hand so she yati kunde nebeda date dalo tratnas nelida banaganoko kodoki and nidi yankil chit asadlin in leko nana diki ya nast ego nast diki ya kweke budget dan in lekon leken gay adon that dan late is so that don't watch the don't late chen Adon that long haida haji tohaji leche nana ako diki hut ego tanas neleda banaganiki nast ego kondiki yisi ajigo ta ditron lenegi beketson keda honot en leko eben nachigo en hitet en leko kodobenilt kodonkilta huilne Adon that dan lay at iso sakad dash hut ego che diki rio salado yeheki archico kilto tohod no kut end del ego kodogi bach huit anigi archico benkich na hotit at diki kedo is rio salado 800 dash ayego ba hoton tochi hotot at to diki nash eje archico kilto baby to chigi to adouch and lenegilto to asatinan lindole nana Rio Perco Basin or Yeheki diki ya so said goyacho Belagana Kechiko 7 chapters dan nitle diki ya so said go ya ajatnas neliki aja dabanaganigi cho tohaji lechiki alsache yakudigi bedet hale yakaya hagi han so shi kweke yeken dat de kein lenigin ki kein lin ajigo ke to hiti neko ben nachigo ke alsachigo bije nat neshin adon dat dan lately gray ado to chedel to ahunana teko alsachigo to na bije neko digi yahut enkil behozen lidole ako di Rio Perco neniki jo ein le na ho question ajo to adon je beketen le adon that the Rio San Jose ge achico digi benachico ge hut ego di to hita di leniki kwadoge enkil behozen lidole adon that de tobak ba ad bedi neniki kwagi esto benada di leko hut ego mikil behozen lidole Adon de Quadoki Dr. Cordova Shane Quadon Kitna had net and lead or lit. Di quake got the ahin linigido anahui ebit dato do lit niniki quid Rio San Jose adjudication hut ego yabijit do adahint on a bit at date Dr. Cordova Shane Quadon Kitna had net dole.
Nana. Good evening, everyone tuning in tonight, or whether you're streaming online. We are talking about the Rio San Jose Stream System Water Rights Settlement Agreement, and we would love for you to be able to participate in the dialogue tonight. And you have the opportunity to be able to text questions or comments in to 928-288-0567. Or if you are on streaming this live, you can also leave a comment as it's being streamed so that we can be able to have questions and comments from you to be able to respond to them. But with that, proceeding forward, we are talking about a water rights settlement. But how this started was through the Rio San Jose adjudication. And this was in state of New Mexico court and the 13th district in Cibola County, New Mexico. And the general stream adjudication was initiated in 1983 with a previously filed federal action to determine the rights of the pueblos of Laguna and Acoma was dismissed. The Navajo Statement of Claims was filed in 1987, and negotiations regarding a potential settlement of the Pueblo's water rights claims have been ongoing since 1993. And when the United States established teams to negotiate comprehensive settlements of the Navajo Nation and the Pueblo of Acoma and Pueblo of Laguna's water rights. And so just as you've heard, many of you listening tonight have been a part of our public education meetings that have been taking place since December for both not only the Arizona, but also for the Rio San Jose stream system water rights, for which we're talking about tonight. And a lot of these water rights settlements start with litigation. And so this is the same. It's no different. And so there's opportunity in settlement for parties to be able to negotiate with one another. And we'll be describing who those parties are for this water rights settlement. Nana? And they are the Navajo Nation, and this is for the trust land areas, as well as the two other pueblos, the Pueblo of Acoma and Pueblo of Laguna. And the United States of America, as well as the state of New Mexico and the city of Grants and the village of Milan, including 9 individual acequias and community ditches. And just the far northern extent of the Rio San Jose Basin is including those communities, Baca Pruitt, Theroux, Smith Lake, Casimiro Lake, and some parts of Mariano Lake, Crown Point, and Little Water. And then the small southern portion of Rama is included, as well as a small southwestern portion of Tuajajile. And in the Rio Perco Basin, we have the whole chapter of Tuajajile and portions of the communities, including Ojo Encino, Torreon, Whitehorse Lake, as well as portions of Counselor. So just to describe to you the extent of the area that we're referring to when we talk about the Rio San Jose Stream System Water Rights Settlement. Nana? As we proceed with that, one of the challenges that we have throughout the Navajo Nation is water access. And I know many of you have grown up as water haulers, and many of you today are still water haulers and don't have piped water in your home. And when we participate in the efforts to participate in water rights settlement, it's really an opportunity to be able to gain access to funding that helps support these projects that we have. And across the Navajo Nation, we have large projects, regional projects that cost millions of dollars. And just to give you an understanding about water access as well, you know, there's more than 200 Navajo households in Rio San Jose and Rio Perco that do not have running water and rely on water hauling to meet the daily needs. And so we have been participating in these negotiations with those parties so that we can be able to gain access to funding for settlement. The other challenge is existing groundwater supplies are limited and are of poor quality. Next slide. One other thing is the water supply conditions. We continue to experience climate change impacts on hydrology, including drought conditions throughout the Navajo Nation. And with that, we do have lakes that were once there, Smith Lake, Casimiro Lake, and drought has impacted these water resources as well as shallow aquifers. And these challenging conditions do make it challenging for ranchers in the region. People who also want to have water access have challenges because of the water quality challenges as well as production challenges in the region. There are challenges such as legacy uranium in this region. And just to be able to note, you know, arsenic challenges exist as well, and production challenges. Sometimes the geology is not just perfectly layered beneath the surface and provides challenges associated with productivity. So when I talk about that, what I really mean is the amount of water that we can get out of the ground. And so a part of this water rights settlement is an opportunity to gain access to clean drinking water and to be able to import water to help these Navajo communities in the Rio San Jose Basin, as well as the Rio Perco Basin. I will now pass it over to Vice Chair Tooley for interpretation in Denebazad.
Di Quadonad Kidiki e ya Rio San Jose adjudication or Geheki. E Queki e ya Johana. Jo Belagana Ketchigo adjudication. E adle gained ingo adahwint ihone. Anaho ahibetato. E hut ego e ya ajago ke e ya nalsos ni. Ako di ki let so hate get Kermagi or Geheki. E di ki she e hand so go she e kweke e yahbetot los leten leko. E di ki e yaha late ego e ya di kunde ba huid not in ta no kat disdained over atla na khayata ita she e ya kwege ba da winst in se leten leko. Ado ndata e kweke ki e yaha nelt e ya di de towni ado kis ani beti neneki ele e hanelt e betet e johanigo adon data ni ya alto kweke ni asbetishne ni ya na beho ajiko ki to nal sos la nin sos leko e to tsada kwike na haljisha ya tratin do ba sos da tse kwina khayata ita ya bada winst in le to adonal sos nil sos akod ya di ki ashkait kota ya algadat dit ato algadat dot alga nego ben nachiko ki ya kun di ki kis ani beti neneki ya akut ego ya joba na hol ji selin leko na tin do ba tratin do ba atla na khayata diki ya kwaje Washington do keya ashlatino ikites iki Washington diki ya shashito naked atil ni ku diki ya banda dot na be huela ado ndata ayakini do kis ani beti neneki jo ita ya hol jis lingo ya kweke na nishigi na hasil zin leko diki ya kwadoki hut ego ata huinti on eki ya kwadon hilchena nana Ako khayla bitatet late o neko ki khayla e bitatet ako ne hihigi yai han so shin ke ya baka ako ege keda honit enigi na be honit lenigi ako ege sabaji so ado kis ani ako ege nan ado togwani ado ndata di ke ya hashlatin hita hotit so the shnenigi Washington ajigo ki iltobaji so ado ndata yo toje aji ke ya hagi hahod so ki ilto ne ilto hadon ni ado ndata di kui gehand so she yallet so lini kweke be hotel zeno cha kuigen da geden de ko di ki ya ilto bol tado le cho hut ego ya be hozen ado ndata nast alla anze zido ado ndata kweke tro yen dan chen shigi belagana ke chiko seki ya tekne cho kuige ya yen dan chen sti de tro woni do ado kis ani beti nenigi kweke na haljisho yan le tro dan le go kweke ta hol bentle ko ado ke da de leto yen dan chen ado ndata kodo hol on lebe el tilgo سنلو وتقول وتجابه هزنية تيمبا ها كأجي كيت اللي هو إلتو كويجي بتا ديت إلتو إلتو هان صودا نبيك هديت هاد كونيجو أفوت إيدولل أدو دي كي ينهالون دوت جيكي كوأجي ناس ندجزوكي كوأجي أونكي بيهو زندولل كونه يدس إزو يدو كهت إنكي دي كي أفوت أكوهد نانا دي كودوكي دي كي ناش كي خيلا بتخو بعد هنت ليدولل أدو أنت تكون دي كي نيدي بتخادا إنيج سلين ل دي كي توهجي لتلوشين أدو كنت لقيدون لإيانا بتخو أدو أنت هانسو شيء تيد كواكيكي كيا ناسو كي نهست ايكو ننكي تو ايبتت كي بناتشكو كي ان ليشي تتخودلونجي تتخودلونجي دي كي هان سو شي كويجتو هجويات ايتا جون لي لهوشي لا يا هداسي تلتسو كي بتلتخا اوكو اويوبا يهود لنجي بناتشكو دي كي تويات هيجي كودوتش ديدو إلتون جدا نتشيو إندورليل أدون دتان لي كواكين كيكيا نابهو بكيا بكشين لنكي لي لتشيكي دي كي نا كدنيز نتين آجيكو كي هنالت دي كوجو آجيكو كي لا تا كي هوت إيكو هوانكي دي todo ya hatas linda ado andata oyonana panna hallen ki nes natin do ba statin don le na kit nes natin jo le beta has te ade keda honot enigi tsna pas habetin ade go ki hut ego na sha ako hut ego al keda ego kundi ki trogi ba kait en ko ako kun di ki de kango ko ki na so ki ti de na njo don le be el dil se be yeje be ket sinje ko na cha ki jo ki otlapa di ki alla da she betro da hollondo troshin ya hata zlenegi ben nachiko di ki to hut gon hielto en le ko jo jo keda honit enigi lana da nit senako di ki onkil be hosen lindo le adon da la in daites ke di ki trogi aisi ayat hegit ba kainil di ki ba kait jo hut ya johana nana ado en detta ti kun di ki halet ki thola halata no len ado halata jo hut do de jo ila yan dan traha de sha John Lane hiba konos sendi di ginda nos kado ado en detta lin dan kisnal losto ado en detta ndo kihita edo taut o dan le tloda كيتا هول إنك أي آدي جي تخنا شادو هيت أو إتشل خلو جو هت إيجو إيدا هزن آدون دتا آل كدا آخوت إيجو أي ديت كون ديت خدا هلون دي اوش كي يجس تيد يجن شنتا كنال تيود يتخو لا دا هيديين لنده أكون دا إيك أدي يبدا هويل زاهن لأكو دي دن سانجي يتو ييغو تخوغي ينجي يدا أثنتدان له أكو كويكي ين ليكوت آتاكي يأكيسكت ديجي بناتشكوكي يكون دا هاليت أو يو دا هوت سي kwigi bikini nildo kwegi his kidige kwadogi altsachiko hut ego apiya hadne nleko o yo hadzo pa nle tleishia ahanata nleko ako digi hege troba da hund eto hatnigo ki kwadogi ngilchi huit adole adon da kwadod mayajan lenigi da tse kwadogi ngilna hadne nlindole Assistant Attorney General Espinon, Hima Ecuadorgi in Kichahananatsi Lindorle.
Thank you, Vice Chair Tolley. And if you're just joining us, we are talking about the Rio San Jose Stream System Water Rights Settlement Agreement in New Mexico. The Navajo Nation Council will be considering approval of the settlement agreement this week. It did go before the Resources and Development Committee on Monday and passed, and it will go before the Nabikia Committee tomorrow, and then on to the full Navajo Nation Council for consideration and approval. So moving on in our presentation, I'm now going to talk about the elements of our settlement agreement. So it does include our past and present water uses in the Rio San Jose and Rio Puerco basins. This includes domestic, commercial, municipal, and industrial wells. It also includes our stock wells, the livestock consumptive use, stock pond storage rights, and stock ponds consumptive use rights. And so the settlement does address all of those elements of our settlement. Nana? So more specifically, our water rights are based on past and present uses. So when you're negotiating a settlement, we do have to bring forth data to show what our uses have been in the past and also our current uses. And so we do rely on our Department of Water Resources and also our Navajo Tribal Utility Authority. We also do get information from the state, and if the federal government has that information, we gather it from them as well. And then we also hire outside consultants and technical experts to help us gather this data. And for this settlement, we use the highest level of use in order to quantify what our past and present uses are. And that's what we did for the Rio San Jose stream system and also the Rio Puerco basin. So in the Rio San Jose stream system, the data shows us that, and so this is what's included in the settlement, is 638 acre feet per year of groundwater with a priority date of 1849. So I'm going to go back and explain what is acre feet per year. So that is how water is measured in order to quantify water rights. And so what an acre foot is imagine the size of a full football field and it being 1 foot deep. That is 1 acre foot. And so we're talking about 638 of those acre feet, and this is per year, so every year. And then also, I said that the priority date is 1849. The reason that that date is chosen is that that is uh, the the first time that the nation entered into a treaty with the U.S. government. You always hear about the Treaty of 1868, and that was a very important treaty allowing Navajos to be released from Hueldi. Well, the first initial treaty was actually entered into in 1849. So also in our settlement agreement is 35 acre-feet a year for the purpose of livestock and watering, wildlife watering. As well, 493 acre-feet is a quantified storage right for stock ponds, 382 acre-feet consumptive use right through evaporation for stock ponds, all with a priority date again of 1849, provided that the priority date for stock ponds on Navajo fee lands is the construction date. So what is a Navajo fee land? A Navajo fee land is land that is not held in trust. And what it usually is land that the Navajo Nation purchased and in addition to add to our reservation. And before it goes into trust, it's considered fee lands. And so for stock ponds that we acquire, it's actually for this purpose, the priority date would be the construction date of the stock ponds after those lands were acquired by the Navajo Nation. And the next bullet point says recognition of the existing state law-based water rights of the Navajo Nation and express recognition that the Navajo Nation may acquire additional state law-based rights. So this is a lot of legalese, a lot of the way that lawyers make sense of what laws apply and to what type of land. So in this case, again, it's land that the Navajo Nation acquired in addition to reservation trust land. And so when that occurs, it's actually state law that would apply to those lands. And once they were acquired, or if certain, like in this situation when we were talking about stock ponds, when they were constructed, that is when the priority date would apply. And we'll ask Dr. Tuli Cordova to maybe give us some examples and of when that actually occurs within the Rio San Jose stream system. I also wanted to say that, these numbers may appear small, but you have to remember, as we showed in the maps, that the areas of the Rio San Jose stream system is quite large. However, the Navajo communities are along the western edge, and then we just have a portion of the To'Hajiilee community on the eastern edge. And as Dr. Tuli Cordova explained, this basin does not have a lot of water availability. It is very dry. She did show pictures of the what we consider lakes in Eastern Agency, but they're completely dry at this point. And so, however, the water, the past and present uses, we did utilize, again, the highest amount that the nation has ever used to quantify those rights. Nana? Nana? So also included in the settlement agreement is groundwater and our future water demand. So in addition to past and present uses, we also have what we expect we are going to need in the future based on future population, including our growth. And so for our future, this settlement agreement would include 1,300 acre-feet a year for the Navajo Nation, and we would have the right to divert and consume that. The purpose of use is additional groundwater rights for domestic, commercial, municipal, and industrial uses. And the places that this 1,300 acre feet a year of future water that's in addition to our past and present uses would be in the Rio San Jose and Rio Puerco basins in New Mexico. So those are for those communities that lie within that. And just to add on to that, the pueblos of Laguna and Acoma, they also have a future groundwater right of 1,300 acre feet a year as well. And if you were to look on a map, you'll see that they are entirely within the Rio San Jose basin. And they also have, their populations, which may exceed the Navajo Nation's populations that are within the Rio San Jose basin, and also their land base as well. Nana? So also included in the settlement is traditional Navajo agricultural water use practices. And I, coming from Torreon, my grandparents had livestock and sheep and also grew crops. And so we know how important that is to the Navajo people. And so also included is this provision, and what it states is the Navajo Nation and its members have the right on Navajo Nation lands to engage in the practices of seasonal works farming and soil conservation as defined and consistent with the stipulation concerning certain traditional agricultural water use practices of the pueblos of Acoma and Laguna, filed with the court on May 12th, 2015, and the court order adopting such stipulation and dismissing the certain claims of the United States. So at the end of that statement, there was a lot of legal jargon there. But in the case that we are currently in, there was a stipulation entered into, and this was concerning the pueblos of Acoma and Laguna, and it was in regards to traditional agricultural water use. Well, as part of this agreement, the parties agreed that the same type of stipulation would apply to the Navajo Nation. So in addition to all the all of the water rights claims that are part of the settlement, we also have this Navajo agricultural water use practice right as well. Nana? So I'm going to actually go back. Can you go back? And I'm going to actually hand it over to Vice Chair Tooley so that he can interpret this into Diné Bazad.
Ake la shmaya je kodoki shibana inkni do kodo ngilchina tish zeko. Di de kojibelagana kechiko bekaiso ke ya Navajo Nation water rights based on past and present uses in this Rio San Jose stream system. Diki ya kodogi bachohotesh Akohoti diki khanelt ya eto baja adalia. Akohokun diki ya Michelle Aishi gave you some numbers, 338 ajiko ki acre feet per year. Quigi ki ishi kwaki ki nad kitiki kwadoki bank kitwadishn leko. Akohoti diki yasin leniki kwaki yachohana. Yachohana aniki yatila ayisito to giego ya agenda so zotala. Akoho o isneheko na halon shi ya ahut ego ya baja baatalia shihwinzen. Akwanda tohogito yego ndo yantielo linda dikwa eki Rio San Jose stream system bedi neneki diki ya kwadoki benkil hoshna lindole. Diki kwadoki kwado benkil chohna an lindole. Diki ya kwadoki bahan lindole liki ya jo adla ata nache Di de nal so sana beti neniki jo e biche na holjish. Na de zito la ako yo kalo. E ko eki e da hot nilzen lindole. E diki ita e ya e kunde ki bebe di litla bikene et ala. Kwedo e don le nasje. E trotje de nog enne e diki e ya e ko eki e be hozene dole. E diki e ya kwedo ki inkil khashne leko. Strad neza tindo ba a sepi e diki e ya e kwiki e ya be hozeno atol ni to khonel e ya chendo akwa ki babacha atol ni adon detta ashtla tindo ba a ashta tindo ba a ashtla e ya kwadoki khanel ola ol ye e Ako e digi ol yehegi chon le jolta thaliki ako e yang hit so kedon hinale keshin betlnanakha eila e khanel ol ye alla this is bedi neniki di johi joli thaliki kweki ki e ya jo so ado unda ta alla this is hot ego troda yo khato ki e ya e hodlie e digi ben nachiko ki e ya ti thatin do ba shla ki e ya nal tlosh a do und tan le la ho a le nal tlosh ki ta hodlo le ti de zesta da e do pi da e do tsidi da e digi e ya honel te o e ya ba bacha to ni a do und tan na me ke on ne ki ya ti ne sa ti do anas ti do ba a kha e digi e ya e kun digi ilchendo karton le trotan digi jo kun e ya da beto tlin da h de yo e kun na da no kraigi a de e ya e kunel de ya e na khat se kado hut ego e ya chito in jo hut ego e ya bikene eta adon detta e ya e ti de kun ta tradne zatin do a se betin do na ke e diki e ya hand so shi e ya kwige e ya chet nakha adon de jo hut ego osa kago ge la honna dals leko akon de e kwa eki e ya bikene et aniki e ya ti kwa eki jo welte de abet se de ye ta na so saniki e ya kon ke zazi ki e ya kwa eki shi et na da zoto e do ta hodlat so ta zibik en da zaz ako ita nakha akoni zi e diki la hota da dia ask da dia ki e diki e ya akuito le e diki indas ka ki e kodo ki benachiko ki e hozen lindo le ado indetta e ya e kun da hand so shi e ya ben ha akuni zi ado indetta kun diki yo troje e aje khahot so ki be hoz ani hodlo ado indetta ha akuni zi ki e ya o na hot e chido intlo e ya kwe ohonet sa dole nan adon de tati kwiki ki e ya han so shen ya be hozani ye John Lane de thogi tle ye de thogi e diki e ya jo kuna hot e da account da chana de don in kuna hot e don le de kwida nachrego e diki e ya kweki ki to na khabaja atod ni e to na khaba hwent e to le ko e yan le naste e diki kwigi e ya la akwa e be hozana to le alla at the milo trad nezatin this is kaya hot zoki e kweki e ya chito in Bini kwegi ni kanigido bini abaja adyagi e di de kun aha wagechon indolis adon de dan le da anishko da alto hot le da anish de shiniki jon le da ikisota ad endet da de aggi chiyol indolis adon de da bekel ne ege le tratnas ne lebaraniki de allan da atli adon da kun belagana da an da kred anan hit an de kre ako haage la shido khalto haage la e kun de da atna kwigi shin to beta det in leko adon de da na neshiaje hand so da ya ti digi kun digi alle da belch at da dod ni jon le kwigi ya po honet sa dolis ako hoti diki shantin betlod leniki ajigo beshe chi ibel ido ajigo ki to tochiyol. Gade la dayton in knaba ka kediki yati den kinki keya. Je kun diki na kiko ya tohoki ya jena ako. Rio San Jose, adon dita Rio Perco Basin, yo toje. Akumba na go keda honot iniki ya kweke chito ape hozani ye ako. Nana adon dita ya di kweke ki pe hozani go ki yanle kwa hahoji jenta ya kunde. The more yeah, that get that the yet the snow hona. Adon de tan le tlahoshi ke da totle adon ki lin shin ta hodlo chiko ki ya ki da cheta inne ki da ke ho kun di gin ki de ne in de ke apik in de ta di ki to ya kwenzen lin do le ako chiko ki ya nast na khayata ita ya kweki ki ya Hans so shiba akwanit zingi benachakoki beja alias lin leko. Diki yatine na be khunit lenikido chikun diki na be khod belash la in hokha de nen hit neniki. Diki ya akun anachak ehot yakun diki chedeni. John leil ta khweni tatan lekun diki ya kunk dat del yekyo nada huishish. Adon dat da heit ego da ya kun diki ke ya hagi ba winsen lenigi ilto kwigi ya heit ego da ya aqua eke ba no seniki kwa eke na antkinigi hodlondo lil. Shi ya ben nachigo ki ya be da hozen lindo lil. Adon dat da kis ani do trownin lenigi kweke ilto ya nal sos nin sos benit atso. Akonast na khayata diki ya kwiki ya akwet ego ba da winst in sedle in lende de ende da le ya kwadoki ya awent sagon kilchohana dole kade kwadoki khalet yal chede don in lenigi kwado Dr. Cordova she kwadoki in kilchana de in kilchana ne do adin de peso ki be da hozen lindole diki peso bol da huint ego ne hut ego ya yahit eto ona hot ago ya ligi do bol da dole diki yan hi ye lenigi kwadoki halet out chido in lenigi Dr. Cordova she kwadon kil khadnet dole.
Yeah, Vice Chair Tooley. Nana, in case you're barely tuning in tonight, what we are talking about is the New Mexico Rio San Jose water rights stream system settlement. And it's important for you to know that you have an opportunity to provide questions or comments to 928-288-0567. Or if you're streaming live, then be able to leave a comment on those streaming websites. But then you also have an opportunity to be able to provide your comment to be read into the record for this legislation, for this resolution. And the resolution number is 0107-24. And we would appreciate you being able to describe your comments and the need for being able to help support this water rights settlement. This proposed settlement fund is $243,271,000. And as we've described earlier in the presentation, the water access challenges as well as the water supply challenges in the Rio San Jose and Rio Perco basins, which are sub-watersheds in the Rio Grande Basin, is just that there's very challenging conditions. And we're proposing projects including a regional transmission water line and Navajo communities connection. And when we have communities like Baca Pruitt that have 150 to 200 homes that don't have piped water, or in Rama, where we have 100 to 150 homes that don't have piped water. There's a need to be able to gain access to have help with the water supply. And we're proposing to be able to import water from the Navajo Gallup water supply projects for the communities that are in the Arroyo Chico region, which includes the communities of White Horse Lake, as well as Torreon, Pueblo Pintado, Ojo Encino, and Counselor. To be able to provide that regional infrastructure has been developed there through the Cutter Lateral of the Navajo Gallup Water Supply Project. That Cutter Lateral project is supporting 8 Navajo communities and over 7,500 customers. And it's been in operation for a few years now. And through this settlement, we are proposing to be able to build infrastructure in the Rio San Jose Basin to help alleviate the water supply challenges. And just to give you an example of what supply challenges there are, a new well was drilled in the community of Smith Lake. However, it only produced 8 gallons per minute, meaning that every minute only you could fill 8 gallons of water. And when you have communities that desire growth for their communities, either for housing or for economic development, having groundwater wells that produce that amount of water and maybe even poor quality, then that provides limitations on the way the communities want to be able to grow. So just wanted to be able to describe, for this settlement, we're proposing funding to build infrastructure, including and that more than $243 million is also funding for wastewater development. We know that there's a need to be able to keep up with water development. So when you develop water, it needs to go somewhere. And so we do have a wastewater development component for this. And we also have for this settlement a chlorination station so that we can have clean drinking water access for our Navajo residents. In addition to that, we are including the development of permanent water hauling stations. We know because of the challenging water access challenges, not only for people, but also for livestock uses, that we do have that challenge as well. And there's currently some communities that don't have permanently existing water hauling stations. In addition to this, we have our water settlement fund that includes operation and maintenance trust fund. And this is a really important trust fund. Many times we develop water, but nothing lasts forever. And we know a lot of us drive our chitties around the Navajo Nation. It's important for us to be able to have the operation maintenance for our vehicles. And same is to be said for the water infrastructure that we develop. And a part of this water settlement fund, we also have water line extension and bathroom additions and livestock water projects. We know that on the eastern side of Navajo, we have a lot of ranchers and the need to be able to support them with prolonged drought conditions, to be able to have the water supply that they need to be able to support those animals. And so being able to have this funding to repair or develop those water systems is important, including the windmills that we have, as well as those earthen dams. And then we also have sanitation projects included. So there's some projects that we have identified that need to be able to help us close that clean water access gap. And then we have a water acquisition fund. And I wanted to turn it over to Assistant Attorney General Espino with the Navajo Nation Department of Justice Water Rights Unit to be able to discuss the water acquisition fund.
Thank you, Dr. Tully Cordova. And so, as explained, part of the $243,271 would include funding to acquire additional water rights. And so, as was explained in the Rio San Jose stream system, as well as the Rio Puerco system basin, the water resources are limited, and then the water that is available is usually of poor quality. So one of the major goals in this settlement was to find ways to bring clean water to the Navajo communities in these basins. And so, as was described with these projects, we will be importing water into the basins to serve the communities. So that's what the regional transmission water line is. And so on the western side, there will be an extension from the Crown Point lateral. That's one of the alternatives, or one of the projects that is being identified to extend that water line all the way down to Theru. There are actually other project ideas as well to be able to serve those communities on the eastern side. And so that's imported water. And that imported water is not going to count against what I had explained earlier as our water rights in the Rio San Jose and the Rio Puerco basins. Now, on the western side, you all are familiar with the Tuahajale community. It's situated pretty close to the Albuquerque metropolitan area. And just last week, there was a groundbreaking ceremony for the Tuahajale water line. So they are going to be connected to the Albuquerque Bernalillo County Water Utility Authority, and there will be water from the authority that goes through the pipeline to serve the water needs of the Tuahajale community. That is necessary because of the scarce resources that are available in the basin, and also because of water quality issues for the water that is available in Tuahajale. So in order to bring that imported water to Tuahajale, the nation actually had to lease that water from the Jicarilla Apache Nation. So we do have a 10-year lease with the Jicarilla Apache Nation for the water that's going to run through the Albuquerque Bernalillo County Water Authority to Tuahajale. Now, in order to be able to address Tuahajale's water needs, access needs permanently, we are requesting this water acquisition fund so that we could either purchase water rights in the Middle Rio Grande or to work with the Albuquerque Bernalillo County Utility Authority to find a way to make Tuahajale a permanent customer, so that we know that there's a permanent water supply for Tuahajale. So it's something a little bit different, but we were told that it has happened before in an Indian water settlement. And so we are going to continue with this effort so that we can ensure that all of our Navajo communities have safe, quality drinking water for their communities. I'll turn it back to you, Dr. Cordova, or Vice Chair Tooley to do the interpretation in Diné Bazad. Thank you.
Yate nan hikwadoki halate yebel katnit ahi adon dan higel do lechniki jog yalikin leniki peso. Khanelt ya ikunden khabacha do nito benda donish. Ako na kidnes at dindo ba distindo ba tra de meal adon dat na kidnes at dindo as dindo ba alla de meal yaja. Diki ya peso ki yadin leniki bod tratolil. Khalate ya chito in khela chito in. Ako di de ko tratnas nele da banaga no ko de bach eta huit aniki John Lay Balagana Snares Adon de Danley Natne Shinja adon de da husten le shada acho e ya ken le greinan ako di gi kunde e akwadat ego e ya strats ata e ya betrada inichi e digi e ya be yal dole e a kwigi chidon in lenegi Valet au chidon in khatneniki e ya John le kudet hohatot los on le sat najin dot los adon de da hitati le dole adon de da ahwaki chidon in dole cho e ahit netide regional transmission e digi e ya nat los dole digi tro adon de da bekel na enan kliniki e ya cho hawan e ya hila koyat ehegi adon de da di twin chwaniki do halit o e ya tro chos indiki e le hit ego na dol ni John le la hot e ya h acho in le ko e diki ben na go to e kweki to la yal ba dol ni adon de dan le la hot tro chostoit ini da be da hodlon la ebeni na e ya tibe il kahan leniki e ya kweki e ya jo e di stinde ge e hot ego e chdein in le adon de dan le na ne shin akwegi keda hat eniki la hotale ya hot aba koni zi di la kodoki trota hak kuri ki trota hitike le ko di ki ale ai sin al sost le e kweki e ya chde yo indo e be na iniho ola hot ego yil sado hot ego be kenegalola e la honana e la hot a yena that is tra de e bena hot egon kit net de yo e trogi ado hit de geto le ado und da e yati kun de gi ben dat don sto be bedan dat dot atlen lenigi e to peso gi la ba akwa ege babaja dot niti kun de gi chana aniki peso kwa ege Ado und da e beda dot seti digi nasit lostole ado und dan le hawan yaja hawan gi beda di ahigi e ya kwa eke beso gi be bahadlon dole ado und dan al loshe betrotten lenigi to e ajiko gi benan ado ajiko gi jota batan zin to e kwa eke beben da donish ado und da e yati de kun de hand so she e yati de chwan da hite yentan lenigi to ajiko ki to ahit ego da ibeta an nistole ako ko de shmayaji ya chona an le tohaji leche di de mo ye ta itat e ya e kleji ki e ya khakha ako di ko ki e kedi so gi e ya e tohagi hit ego da e na han ni hinde abiga tole e di ki ben nachiko ki e ya e John Lede hand so da ai se apa when in lego e ya betro gi ban huil ni ban da hil ni gi e ya chische e di gi e ya e jo in le yo torje na ho consido a chico a quigin ki den la keda hat in le ko e a de betro gi e ya in le bel dilsen le ko e be tropa a di bedin nenigi e digi e ya e trohat loston le trohaji leche e kweke e ya e chiyot indo lechuk adige e ya di de hand so she e ya trohagi a abe na hot in ledo a yoshin chon da det a leta a yo yiltso ado beshpa dan ahagi da hit e ko da e ya kwige inde yilchon giben nachigo ki e troya e gi ayat atsketlo e digi hadot losa nenegi e kweke e ya hot e ya chide don in leko de onda da e ya hot ego betra il tra e ya di de e ya nast ego a hot ego e ya yaden nenegi do chide don in e ya be hot zane dole onda da e hot ego e ya inkil chena dole la ko akonda dinasko e ya to e ya hol ago e ya otro na hid ni ta dole e digi hot end obe hot no la ko don da an hit an hit tro hit loso e digi e ya hot ego e chede no in dole aje le troji leche ko hut ego yankil behos zendo litlakoho apo honet zago edo hut ego yasata idlaki benachikoki kwadoki hut ego hot atn lenige kwadon kitchen adolik adon da kwadoki diki John leitla ho alla ataki nana da alla diki ho waniki jo di kwakenal kitten leniki tlechki leniki jo ein late lo chenjo jo ajo to hit ego de tro kwaki ki benda don nation leko di late lo chenjo oyo tletso diki kwaki nas kra ot di zen de kraki benal so set Ako ta nico nes na tin doba eadon da nes na tin doba ashla tin betrai akonel adla ta ki kweki hawaniki do trobet ya hidlin adon da tan lena ne shinjo adon da kwadoki ingi maya je kwadoki ingi khod ne lena ne shin ade chishike ne ko adla ta ki ade keda hat iniki quick atro enkelt ja hat dort los dann so hot ego den ko ako hot when sogoki nikil chna dole adon da kwadoki shi Mayajan Leni Assistant Attorney General Eshe Kwado Espino Inkimayaja Kwadoki Inkilna had neto let's the ha ila agisi akweki bet nit aniki Kwadoki Yankil had net and lido lit. Nana.
Thank you, Vice Chair Tooley. This is Crystal Tooley Cordova, the Principal Hydrologist with the Navajo Nation Department of Water Resources. And what we are talking about tonight is a New Mexico water rights settlement for the Rio San Jose Stream System water rights settlement. And it's important to understand why we are proposing to be able to do this settlement and how it can help us close the clean water access gap. And with that, I want to answer a couple of questions. And the first question is, how has climate change impacted the water sources in eastern Navajo, New Mexico? And when we think about the impacts of the water sources, it's important to understand how climate change has impacted water sources. And so when we think about climate change impacts to hydrology, and that includes earlier snowmelt runoff, decreased snowpack, more winter precipitation falling as rain, and increased magnitude and frequency of drought and flooding in the region. And what we've experienced in the past 20 plus years is prolonged drought conditions that have impacted shallow aquifers, the efficiency of water infrastructure, and water quality. And in addition to that, it's important to understand who's vulnerable to drought. And that includes water haulers, public water system, farmers, ranchers, wildlife, and livestock. And what we're proposing is to be able to secure our water future by being able to diversify our water portfolio. And we're proposing to do that to address what is asked in the second question, which is considering the challenging water quality and water production challenges, how is the Navajo Nation going to get adequate, reliable access to clean drinking water? And so as we mitigate against climate change, we're working to be able to have a more secure and sustainable water future. And how we're doing that is being able to interconnect our public water systems. And for those of you online, you're seeing a map, but I'll be describing this to our listeners on KTNN. And so we have in blue public water systems that are conveying water to homes and businesses throughout the Navajo Nation in blue. On the far eastern side of Navajo, we have the Cutter Lateral that I mentioned that is serving 8 Navajo communities, over 7,500 customers. And that's a completed regional water system project. And that was made possible through a water rights settlement in the San Juan River Basin in New Mexico. Currently in design and under construction includes the San Juan Lateral, and many of you have seen between San Benito and Yatahe the construction that's going along on 264 in between San Benito and Yatahe, and that's the Kotaker Lateral. And I want to be able to describe that because these San Juan Lateral, like the Cutter Lateral, is a part of that Navajo Gallup Water Supply Project, which is a part of the water rights settlement. And being able to acknowledge the challenges in the Rio San Jose and Rio Perco basins. It was mentioned before about Tuahajile. And to give an example, Tuahajile has, out of its 6 wells that they have, 1 well that is currently working to support the community. But the water quality of that 1 well, because the water quality is very challenging, it degrades the system faster. So sometimes when you look at what comes from that well, the infrastructure, you would think that well infrastructure has been there for decades, but it has to be replaced every 18 months to 2 years, just to provide how the water quality degrades the system. Even within the chapter house, you can go to the chapter house at Tuahajile and use the faucet and be able to see some of those water quality challenges impacting the infrastructure. In communities like Smith Lake, we do have water production challenges, and as well as with some of our wells, livestock wells that are in shallow aquifers, they have water challenges. And so through this effort, we're looking to be able to use that more than $243 million to be able to help with water development in the Rio San Jose and Rio Perco Basin regions to help support the Navajo communities in those regions so that we can be able to improve our water quality access as well as improve the production that is needed to be able to support the foundational water block that is needed. When we think about developing either housing in a community or economic development, water and electricity is really an important part of the process. And so in order for our communities to be able to grow so that our Navajo people can return home, we really need that water access to be able to help us do that. And so with the map that's currently showing, there's dotted red lines going south of Crown Point, and that's a proposed way to be able to bring in water into the Rio San Jose Basin. And on the Arizona side, you see what some of that proposal is, and for the Navajo-Utah region as well, as far as interconnecting the public water system. Because when they stand alone, they only have reliance on groundwater. But if we interconnect these public water systems that are currently standalone, we can diversify the water portfolio to include surface water and groundwater. And then we can be able to have a more sustainable future by being able to have more than one water supply that supports the Navajo communities. And I will be turning it over now to Assistant Attorney General Espino to be able to talk about allotments.
Thank you, Dr. Tully Cordova. And so, as many of you are aware, in Eastern Navajo, we have a lot of allotments. Probably the highest number of allotments on the Navajo Nation are in Eastern Navajo Agency. So this settlement is a settlement to address the Navajo Trust land. And so the Navajo allotments in Eastern Agency will not be impacted by this Rio San Jose Stream System Water Rights Settlement.
The United States does represent the Navajo allottees as trustee, and so there is a plan that has been expressed by the Secretary's Indian Water Rights Office that there will be outreach to Navajo allottees in the future to discuss possibility of settling allotment water rights. But I do want to say that the projects that we discussed will serve all Navajos within the Navajo Nation, and that includes allottees. And so the status of the land has never been differentiated by Navajo Tribal Utility Authority or the nation. And so all Navajo all entities within the Navajo Nation will still benefit from this settlement. And so, for an example, Dr. Toli Cordova talked about the Cutter Lateral. The Cutter Lateral is already serving Eastern Agency chapters, and that service does not differentiate if the land is Navajo Trust land or if it is an allotment. And so that will continue as is. And so I think I made my point that Navajo allotments will not be impacted by this water rights settlement. However, they will continue to benefit from the projects that are a part of the settlement. Their water rights will just not be affected. Nana? So key benefits of settlement. And the reason we bring this up is, as Dr. Cordova talked about earlier, this settlement began with a court case. It's called the Kerr-McGee case. And that case was actually filed in the 1970s, and the Navajo Nation filed its water rights claims in the basin in the 1980s. And that case has not gone to trial yet. And so, however, there have been stays to the adjudication to allow the parties to settle. And so that's why we are talking about settlement, because we have been working towards settlement. And that is also the preferred way to resolve a case, because number one, you have a seat at the table. You are part of the decision making. And when I say you, I'm talking about the Navajo Nation will be part of the decision making. It won't just be a state court judge making a decision on our behalf. So also key benefits of settlement is that we will have real water in Navajo people's homes in the near future. As I said, this case began in the 1970s. It is now 2024. So we're talking more than 50 years that this matter has been moving forward at a very slow glacial pace. And we do not know when that the case will end, if it has to continue through the litigation route. And so also this will help us actualize the vision of having a global Navajo water system sooner than later. We would have water security and that is because we will realize that water supply system, which has been a vision of the Navajo Nation for quite some time. And also a settlement will allow for opportunity for growth and for other opportunities like economic development. It will provide a pathway home for our people who have had to leave the Navajo Nation in order to go to school or to find jobs where water and other utilities are more available than on the Navajo Nation. The settlement will give us insurance that we can remain on Dinetka from time immemorial and thereafter. Nana? So as I said, litigation would occur in state court and state law would apply. Litigation, the outcome would be a paper decree quantifying our water rights. So we would have a piece of paper saying this is what you're entitled to. However, through litigation, it would not give us funding for the infrastructure that we greatly need. And the resources that the decision will be made about will be limited to the reservation. So you heard me talk about importing water and also, finding a way to acquire additional water rights outside of the Navajo Nation's claims, like in the Middle Rio Grande. And so through settlement, we have that ability to be creative like that. But in litigation, we would not get any kind of ruling such as that. Litigation is also adversarial and very lengthy. As I said, this case has been going on for at least 50 years or more. And it's also very, very costly. Water rights adjudications cost in the millions. So settlement, it provides certainty. We will know what our water rights claims are. We will also know what our neighbors' water rights are. And it does include a paper decree. So we will have title to our water rights. And then as part of the settlement, we informed you of projects and funding for that project. So funding does come with the settlement for wet water development. We can also work with our neighbors through settlement for how we're going to manage and conserve our water as neighbors. So better tools for water management and also water movement between basins and also through across state lines. You can't get that in litigation, but you would have that ability to agree amongst the parties that water can move between basins and across state lines. And then because Congress would authorize the settlement and give that authority for that to happen, because right now that's not allowed under current law and what we call the law of the river. And again, settlement is negotiated. We have a seat at the table. We're part of the decision making. Nana? Okay. So where are we now? The timeline, we did kind of talk about it. The Attorney General brought it up at the beginning. This settlement has been finalized amongst the parties, meaning that the attorneys came together, they worked with their clients, and we have an agreement that we now take back to our clients and our leadership, in this case, the Navajo Nation Council, for them to consider it and to approve it. We're hoping that will happen on Thursday. And once it's approved, it will go to the Navajo Nation president for his consideration and for his signature. And then once that happens, we submit it to our congressional delegation, and they will introduce it in Congress. And we want it to not only be authorized, but we also want it to be funded as well. And then once Congress funds and authorizes it, then it would go to the U.S. president for his signature. And then after that happens, we have to do what you call conform the settlement agreement with what Congress authorized. So sometimes there are changes that occur when it's in the congressional process. And so we would have to conform the settlement, kind of go back to the parties and not renegotiate, but align the settlement with the legislation. And then after that's all done, then we take it back to the court and we finalize the adjudication. We get them to adopt the settlement agreement. Nana? So again, we really urge you to ask questions, provide comments on not only this settlement, but also the Arizona settlement. You can submit comments to the Navajo Nation Council. It'll be become part of the record. And so if you do want to provide comments, you would contact the Office of Legislative Services. Their email address is comments@navajo-nsn.gov. Again, that's comments, COMMENTS, @navajo-nsn.gov. And also you could fax it if you would like to 928-871-7259. And you may also mail your comments to the Office of Legislative Services at P.O. Box 3390 in Window Rock, Arizona, 86515. And if you need any assistance or you have any questions, please feel free to contact the Navajo Nation Department of Justice at 928-871-6345 or 928-871-6343. And I will turn it back to Vice Chair Tooley.
Ako sila di kwado ki e yan ke chihot. Di kweki ki e ya ba chihotish atin leniki. Ya kojita anish Navajo Tribal Utility Authority Olgel. Ajiko ki e ya da anish dan le ko toy ikides in adon da e kwiki toy ikides in ke ya kun de yan halon kweki ki e ya nash do kweki inda so. Yana had leniki e kun tota hodlo. Adon geta e yanket hobeta isni. Akon de di geek at kweki beta anishin leniki e ya. John le eshi be torge na ho question. Adon deta e acho e yan le beta has it. Adon deta le shada acho ki e ya. Alto kwigi a hand so she e ya di ki. Tlechigon das so ki e kundi ki e besto tobi lindo le beshiki e ko eke indo lieten leko. Ako e digi ni liago ki e ya trogin ke traho ya alchida ini inde bohonet zando le katbebe hos ani enigo ki e ya akwaje yo troje trohat los ki e akwigicho indo le adon de dan le hos doje elto. Aja trogi keya, aja hat losgi quido, liston leishi, be torge to akonde di ki be las need obik in it, go eya trogi altra setna natit losen lido lit ki eya quake benkit rotation and lenko. Nana adon dit di quiki eya at subik in it up at the schneetlashe. A Navajo allotment so liao e ko egishi put ego ingit beda hozen. Ako hoti quado del ego and hit hod nehigi Dr. Cordova adon de damas espino to ko egin hit hod nehigi to aje hut ego ya keya hut ego hat so ki di ki ba masana da ba che bezazad an leni hut ego belik el yako ado ya da bezke adon de tan le ho do ya troya hadas linda hut ego ya bespeda hozen le ako ajiko ki hut ego ya ke ya hagitla hut ego nike hodloniki asati ki ya ba hut not in she ko don kis na hanne lido le ako hot ya hut nana adon de di quigi tsada ha ila yisi ben de dol isa niniki tsada ha ila ya bets adon de die jo quigi ya na ite kitten le ko di ki kodoki ya in kebesh bahasa anen leni kodoki ya kweki ki ya begin it adon de danal so sigina stage kenjo di ki ya quigi ya nihe hit egoda kwegi hatos to alle etanal sosa to schni no sego te ben ha hot in leko adon de din ke besh bahasa aniki joshe ya lesos di nach gobeje ho setn leko dik adin ke besh bahasa aniki ya yego ya ta iltra ado yego ya bel da hozen don ta azota dan leko se tskilon da nado tskilon saha kesa neneki jo diki yeta del ako diki ya kweki highlight ya chido into diki be khatnit anigi kweki be hozana dole diki trokin le keda hoit inde nke kon ya ed ad troya hatot los adon detta ya tsat enen ke ya shjodi ki ya trokin ke tratan dole an hinit senegit ego ben da il dole Adon detta annas kolto eija itahitit olto trohogilche sil kandorle diki eija ahut ego anhie akwek eija biketnit eija be hozzanetole adon de benache eija kundigi keja to handsoda da anishige eija ndat nolt atn leko adon da be hozzandole Ako eigi sin lenige eija tsada abe hozzandole lede troja itin ado ai bikek eta eia handottal ado ndeta kweki to ai si eia an hitor le khatnen ki eia tsadal kita tro akut ego enilia di ki troba adi do troba ka ado nda bishran si do hand so she eia tseltsi krota da nen ki di trogi eia al kita an hizaza shin chedeyos in Ako diki eia akut ego ahut egon galchene yachedeitos itin leko. Adon detta nana di quigigi yalto hand so shi belkat nit aniki diki yatsada yisi a lana do leliki yisit yahut ego ebeka kwege il kitten leko. Kojiko ba huint eniki jo le ade no ego ke inst ajiko dorles. Aachiko ki ya agat ahin khana hoto as adon that nahoy ahi tahto ya kweto on kha alcheto lese ki ya hot end oyo to ya shon de to le ai si ab ohotan kudotan khai to le adon that ya ligi to bol khanda to kuige peso ki chenit ane ki ki ya bol khando le bigel hollo dole hut ego pan sakes adon that ahit ego da anan le di da alche tots adon that le skado do a kwege elche hotod ni hut end si abana hat ido bana nishigago hut ego ya hut achiko gido ya shonda do peso la pa hatodle akohon nachiko ki a hwennehi dole gat nit ago big epidate adon that bakata hastano do ade ke nil ingo alla de ke kundi bakata hastana khalch eliada don hiyanit adeko dike ya ajiko ya atole a hwennehi dole adon that ya ti trohgil kada dit los ebe hot etole hut ya kundi ba ben da don shigi be hozzene dole adon that dit hot the tleki to diki ya be hozzene dole le lachiko ki ya inalsos trohgit a kol a dat kujiko ki ya sgat nit a ko ki ya nalsos trohgi bol tradole ado the tleki to tro bol tradole adon that the ape hozzene dole dit ya hot ko adon that di kodo ya nana di kodo ki ya naide kido ki sto nalsos da ateshnit no cinco diki ya na khabohonetsa akonde hut ego atkinsho diki kodo nalsos nil sos sad beta na hotit ahi ade tranas nilida banagande ade ko ki ya khatolla Shei ada yan lech in lech shanat yen di jedo yela tasling diki ya kojigi bol tradole adon detta pesh bahasa anabatato endol sos enigi kiadolti adon detta kodo the neba Washington President Nye Green ajiko ki belatso hikinido adon the budget da idol ade hut ego biji la ko ke ya te ho wando ye ho wango be ade inal so sigi nas na de dolchish adon de tan has Joe Biden President Joe Biden di ge bi ya don dai ko egnil so biji gi de dolte te endet ta ei kun tiki hit eheko ta ei alts iso granate dit haleit I peso bacha ator ni khayla bachi hotor ni de ondet ta ei akwa eki nal sosigilchi wendol ni leko dit hot dorlil adon da kwadoki belchi wendol ni leniki kodo Dr. Cordova adon that Assistant Attorney General Kodoshi Isagoshin Ye Honedo link.
Yeah, Vice Chair Tooley. We did get some text questions in, and when the first text question says, based on your assessment, does the water supply from the city of Gallup have uranium? And I want to be able to equip all of you who are listening and watching tonight to be able to know how you can find information about your drinking water sources. And in the United States, we have the Clean Drinking Water Act. And so we do have waters that are regulated to be able to look at what is their water quality based on different elements in the water. And so for City of Gallup, they have an annual drinking water quality report, but many of our listeners are on the Navajo Nation, and Navajo Tribal Utility Authority does put out a consumer report that is an equivalent of an annual drinking water quality report, being able to evaluate different analytes for different areas. And so this is information you can go to your water quality and be able to look for that either online or be able to ask your water supplier where you can find this information. It's publicly available information. The next question says, that was texted in, says, since there is funding involved, what entity will maintain the water? So when on Navajo Nation, the best way to think about water development and operation and maintenance is like a three-legged stool. There's 3 team members on here: Navajo Nation Department of Water Resources, Indian Health Service, as well as NTUA. And at Department of Water Resources for Navajo, we do regional water supply, so bulk water supply projects. The Indian Health Service does the connection to homes, and NTUA and other entities like in Tuahajule, they have their own system as well. So it's important to understand that. So when we do have operation and maintenance, it'll be a part of a trust fund that the Navajo Nation has. But the operator and maintainer of the water systems that are developed on Navajo have been the Navajo, for the most part, the Navajo Tribal Utility Authority. And so just to describe who would be maintaining the water systems that are developed. So just wanted to describe that and turn it over to Assistant Attorney General Espino to answer a few other questions.
Thank you, Dr. Tully Cordova. We do have another question here. It states Thoreau chapter is adjacent to the township of Thoreau. Can the settlement include economic development planned by the chapter membership in the township of Thoreau? The land is fee land. So we do want to bring water to the area, to all of the Navajo Nation communities, in order to enhance economic development, because we know how important that is. And so I cannot answer specifically this question because I think I need some additional information. However, yes, it is our hope that water will be brought to the community in order for the chapter to enhance its economic development so that it can thrive. And there is a good opportunity in Thoreau because it does have a township as well. And it's located right off the interstate. And I know that there are already, stores and gas stations there. So it is our hope that this water will also be available for economic development endeavors. I don't know if there's any more questions. That's the last one that I saw.
One of the other questions that we do have is, does the Navajo Nation have to pay for the water rights settlement? And the way this water rights settlement funding that we are talking about, the $243,271,000, that would be coming from the federal government that would pay for this. And so the Navajo Nation doesn't pay for the water rights settlement, but seeks that funding appropriation through this water rights settlement from Congress. And then, as mentioned by Assistant Attorney General Espino, if passed by Congress, then the President of the United States signs it into law.
Okay. I know that we had some other frequently asked questions. I don't know if we have any more that have come in while we've been talking. So let me see here. Did you answer this one, Dr. Tully Cordova? How does the settlement agreement account for groundwater use? We did cover groundwater use. I think I covered those slides. Do you want to add to that about how perhaps the past and present amounts were acquired, how we came up with those amounts?
Yes, thank you, Assistant Attorney General Espino. And then we'll go to our Vice Chair, Tully, who will help us with the translation. The Navajo Nation Department of Water Resources has provided the technical support to the Navajo Nation Department of Justice Water Rights Unit. And what we did is look at all of the past and present uses for any of the types of uses that we have. So as an example given early on, yes, some of our stock ponds or Smith Lake may not have water at this time, but at some point in time in the past, it did have the opportunity to have water. And so the water right that is secured doesn't account for the current conditions of drought. So we do account for any water that was used in the past. That's an example that we do have. So Smith Lake at full capacity is considered in this water right settlement to be added, as well as all the stock ponds that are currently dry. When they are full, they're holding an amount of water. And in addition to that, we do have, some wells that may have been capped in the past as well. So at one point in time, those wells did produce water for Navajo communities. And so we also include those wells that are currently in production, or maybe they may be offline. And then in addition to that, we do account for livestock consumptive use. So on the forage, what's needed to be able to grow the plants to support the livestock and wildlife. And in addition to that, the evaporation loss of the stock ponds, we account for that water right as well. So just wanted to be able to describe that, and passing it over to Vice Chair Tully at this time.
Hakoshila dide na ke podo ke ta huid ne oti ni di ba chot anegi adiki e yan le thoda holongo e ya en ke pe hozenle jo thoha yishkagi be thotla kai da ta hol yet da de kwishin la te go e yan le de be jiba atalia e ku diki thoda holoneki e yan ki shin ke pe hozen ako e digi ben na chigo kin le thoda hande ke ha ko a kunshi to slashin da hol say a cod a diki a hit a hecoda ki a bita date ki a quick a toby na hot lately a co win so dolly I don't that dequagabelch when dish lately. What is rightfully ours, we must protect. What is rightfully due us, we must claim. What we depend on from others, we must replace with our own labor from our hands, and then also our minds and the skill of our people. What we do not have, we must bring into being. We must create for ourselves. I want to attest that the professionals and paraprofessionals that work collaboratively with the executive office, legislative office, the Department of Justice, and Navajo's finest experts of attorneys, scientists, professionals, paraprofessionals, and then our community lay people that are abroad. We have taken your particular comments and we have interwoven them into this agreement. We ask that you support and contact your officials, chapter officials, your honorable council delegates, office of the speaker, office of the president, and let them know that you support this initiative. When sokoshin e ya e gilda hasid net lido le to ke ha ya e ho e yan ke ta to a hakone